Hi guys, let's have a look at the short version of what Satan's hierarchy looks like. I did make a full video on this as well. It's on our YouTube channel. You cannot fight an enemy if you don't know the enemy. I've heard a lot of times where people in leadership and even pastors and teachers and dominies tell people things like, if you leave Satan alone, he will leave you alone. Or don't mess with that kind of stuff, it's satanic. No, that is the worst advice you can give a person. We are called to do spiritual warfare every day, 24/7 a day. It should be a lifestyle. As the bride of Christ, spiritual warfare should be a part of our daily life. Right, let's read Ephesians 6 verse 12 from the King James Bible. Today, I want to explain that verse, and I also want to speak to you about how Satan's dark kingdom works. It says, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities," and we are going to have a look at what these principalities are, "against the powers," and we are going to have a look at what these powers are, "against the rulers of darkness," we're going to have a look at what these rulers of darkness are, and "against the spiritual wickedness." We're also going to have a look at what the spiritual wickedness is. In Satan's hierarchy, Satan is on top. He's the main man, the boss. Underneath him are the principalities. Underneath the principalities are the powers. Underneath the powers are the rulers of darkness. Underneath the rulers of darkness are the spiritual wickedness. And under the spiritual wickedness are Satan's workers on earth, like the witches, the Satanists, etc. That is the order of Satan's kingdom. Just the same as God has an order in his kingdom, it's God the Father, God the Son, Holy Spirit, the angels, then us. Just the same as Satan have an order in his kingdom. And we, as born-again Christians, should know how that kingdom works in order to do spiritual warfare effectively. Okay, let's have a look at it. Ephesians 6 verse 12. "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood." That means our fight is not against people. It's not against human beings. It's against spirits. At the top of the hierarchy, you get Satan. And underneath Satan, you get the principalities. Let's have a look at these principalities. Principalities are fallen angels, or as the Bible also calls them, princes of darkness. Princes is short for principalities. These principalities rule over areas, cities, businesses, churches, governments, etc. Principalities are ruling spirits which rule over areas. They are area bound. All pagan gods and goddesses are also fallen angel principalities. And all angels, including fallen angels, are shape-shifting spirits which can transform into any form or shape. Think, for example, of the angels who came in human form into Lot's house. And also Hebrews 13 verse 2, which says, do not neglect to extend hospitality to strangers, for by this some have entertained angels without knowing it. This shows us that an angel can transform into a human form or into any form. They can shapeshift into any form that they wish. And then if I think of Daniel 10, which is also an example of how the principality over Persia held back Daniel's answer from God for 21 days, and how the angel Michael had to go and fight this fallen angel in order to get Daniel's answer released. Let me read that part. Daniel 10 from verse 10. This is now the angel speaking to Daniel. Then behold, a hand touched me and set me unsteadily on my hands and knees. So he said to me, O Daniel, you highly regarded and greatly beloved man, understand the words that I am about to say to you, and stand upright, for I have now been sent to you. And while he was saying this word to me, I stood up trembling. Then he said to me, do not be afraid, Daniel, for from the first day that you set your heart on understanding this and on humbling yourself before God, your words were heard, and I have come in response to your words. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia, that is the principality over Persia. It's the fallen angel which were given the rulership over Persia by Satan. Okay, let's read on. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia was standing in opposition to me for 21 days. In other words, the principality over Persia, the fallen angel which were over Persia, was standing in opposition to this angel for 21 days, holding back Daniel's answer from God. Let's read on. Then behold, Michael, one of the chief of the celestial princes. Michael is the archangel Michael. He's also called a prince in the Bible because he's also a principality, but he's a principality for God's kingdom, not for Satan's kingdom. So the fallen angels are princes or principalities in Satan's kingdom, and the archangel Michael and God's angels are princes or principalities in God's kingdom. Okay, let's read on. Then behold, Michael, one of the chief of the celestial princes, came to help me, for I had been left there with the kings of Persia. Again, the kings of Persia are the principalities over Persia. So in other words, what happened was the principality, fallen angel over Persia, was holding Daniel's answer back so that God's answer cannot get to Daniel. Then this angel which is speaking to Daniel now had to call in the help of the archangel Michael to come and fight off this prince or principality of Persia in order to get Daniel's answer released. Let's read on. Verse 14. Now I have come to make you understand what will happen to your people in the latter days. Now, this angel is saying, now he's got the answer. They got Daniel's answer from this principality over Persia. And now this angel have come to make Daniel understand what will happen to his people in the latter days. In other words, he came to give Daniel the answer from God that Daniel was waiting for. Okay, so let's look at the powers now. So our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the principalities, against the powers. The powers are fallen angels called generals, which are over the 4 elements. The 4 elements are water, earth, fire, and air. Over element water is the queen of the coast. Over element earth is Gaia. She's the Mother Earth goddess. Over element fire is the fire dragon. And Hermes is over element air. I do have a written teaching on the 4 elements. If you would like me to email you that teaching, I can also WhatsApp it. Please let me know and I'll send it to you. I'm not going to go into the 4 elements now in this teaching, as it is a teaching on its own. Let's look at the rulers and the spiritual wickedness now. I want to look at these two together because they go together. Okay, so our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, and then the two that we're going to look at now, against the rulers of darkness and the spiritual wickedness. The rulers are the strongman giant kings, the Nephilim kings. And the spiritual wickedness are the giants, Nephilim spirits, in other words, the demons as we know them today. These are both Nephilim spirits, but the rulers are the king Nephilim spirits, and the spiritual wickedness are the demons as we know them today. But let's first look at what a Nephilim spirit is. The Nephilims are the giants that were on the earth in the Old Testament. When God sent the flood, the giants drowned, and the spirits who went out of their bodies, those are the Nephilim spirits. Okay, now let's look at where the giants or the Nephilims came from. Let's look at Genesis 6 verse 4. And there were giants, Nephilims, on the earth in those days before the flood, and also that after the flood. When the sons of God, when you look in the Hebrew, it says angels, rebels, and fallen angels, came in onto, in other words, slept with the daughters of men. These are human women, and they bore children to them. In other words, the fallen angels had sexual intercourse with a human woman on earth, and they bore children unto them, which were the giants. Let's read the verse further. The same, those are the children, in other words, the giants. The same became mighty men. In the Hebrew, it says giants, tyrants, and Nephilim, which were of old. That means they were there for a long time. Men of renown. In the Hebrew, it says famous, mighty, visible men, and men with authority. Those were the giants. So in other words, what happened was the fallen angels had sexual intercourse with a human woman on earth and had children by them, and these children were the giants, also called the Nephilim. These giants or Nephilims drowned in the flood, and their spirits who left their bodies are the demon spirits on earth as we know them today. Now the rulers and the spiritual wickedness are both Nephilim spirits, but the rulers are the kings, Nephilim spirits. In other words, they are the stronger ones. They are the demonic spirits that cause strongholds in a person's life. They are the strong men, which where the spiritual wickedness are also giants or Nephilim spirits, but they are the lesser demons. Okay, let me explain this to you so that you can have a better understanding of this. So, in those days, the pagan nations were ruled by kings. These kings were giant kings, not normal people. They had kings who ruled, but these kings were giants. Okay. Then there were ordinary giants as well who lived on the land, but these were not kings. They were just ordinary giants, and those are the spiritual wickedness. It's like you have a king over a country, which is a human being, and then you have the ordinary people who live in that country, who that king reign over, which are also human beings. They're all the same species. But you get the ordinary people and you get the king. Now, it was the same in the Old Testament. You had the ordinary giants who lived in the land, and then you had the king giants who were also giants. They were the same species, but who ruled as kings in those pagan lands. Okay, so that is the difference between rulers and spiritual wickedness. The rulers are the kings, the strong men, demons, and the spiritual wickedness are the ordinary demons as we know them today. So Satan is on top. He is over the principalities. He gives orders to the principalities. The principalities are over the powers. They give orders to the powers. The powers are over the rulers. They give orders to the rulers. And the rulers are over the spiritual wickedness, and they give orders to the spiritual wickedness. But the principalities and the powers are fallen angels, whereas the rulers and the spiritual wickedness are Nephilim spirits, in other words, demons. Then you also get Satan's workers on earth. Those are the astral travelers, witches, Satanists, etc. Just the same as we are God's workers, we work for God's kingdom, we get our orders from God. Just the same, the witches and the Satanists get their orders from Satan. They work for Satan's kingdom.